The night she signed the contract, Lynn Tran swore it was only survival. 30 days, one man, and a promise that her mother's life would not slip away because of hospital bills. She told herself it was business, nothing more. But the moment she stepped into Adrian Knight's world, she understood business was the last thing this was. He was ruthless, too handsome for his own sins, and powerful enough to bend a city to his will. With steel-gray eyes that cut through every lie, Adrian offered her a cage wrapped in silk. Every rule he gave was a test. Every touch, a danger. And every glance across the penthouse glass pulled her deeper into a game she didn't know how to play. To society, she became a scandal. To him, she was a possession he refused to lose. To herself, she was no longer sure, because somewhere between fear and desire, hatred and hunger, she stopped remembering which promises were real and which ones she had only whispered to survive. And now, the question that haunted her wasn't how to escape Adrian Knight. It was whether she even wanted to. Number: Rented Lover by the Month. Chapter 1. The Offer. The city sold miracles at a markup. Neon-priced them, glass-cased them. Men who never learned how to apologize owned the receipts. From the sidewalk, the rain looked like static. From the 21st floor, it looked like confession. I watched it from behind a bakery window that steamed the street into a watercolor. The oven timer chimed. The counter girl Mai slid a tray of pineapple buns onto the rack like promises we weren't allowed to keep. Rent was due in 4 days. The hospital portal had stopped being polite and started sending emails with subject lines that sounded like threats in church clothes. My mother needed another round of a drug with a name that tasted like metal. The discount program had paused. The social worker suggested patience like it was a vitamin. I was out of vitamins. Mai pushed a bag toward me. "On the house," she said. "I work in the back," I said. "It is very much not on the house. You look like a person who hasn't eaten since yesterday," she said, chin high, defiant on my behalf. "Take it." I took it because refusing kindness can be a kind of vanity. "Thank you." She glanced at the lightning beyond the window. "You heading downtown after this?" "Yes." "To Times That Times Place?" "Yes." She frowned the way younger sisters do when they've decided to be older for 5 seconds. "Be careful." "They make nice look like a costume." "They pay cash," I said. She didn't argue. She handed me a plastic umbrella that wanted to be generous. "Bring it back," she said. "Or don't. Just bring yourself." Outside, the rain baptized everybody equally. Suits, tourists, men who pretend sidewalks are emails they can ignore. The club's invitation burned in my pocket. Thick cardstock, embossed initials, a time, a door. The text had arrived the night before from a number that belonged to money. Asterisk Miss. Tran, you've been extended a courtesy. Present this at 9 p.m. Come alone. Dress code. Clean lines. Closed mouth. Asterisk. The temp agency called it hospitality work. The internet called it something else. I called it a possibility I couldn't afford to be moral about. The warehouse district had learned new manners. Brick grew glass. Graffiti acquired fonts. Every other door had a bouncer who looked like he'd been imported from a cautionary tale. The club's entrance was unmarked, except for a single brass square the size of regret. I showed the card to the woman at the desk. She wore black like a profession, and had cheekbones that could get people out of parking tickets. "Miss Tran," she said, as if we'd been expecting me all my life. "Yes. Here to interview?" Her eyes flicked over my thrift store sheath dress. I had ironed it with the bottom of a pan. "You'll do." "Do for what?" "For tonight," she said, smiling in a way that wasn't unkind. "We trial before we hire. Follow the rules. Don't improvise. If anyone asks you to leave a room, you leave. And if they ask me to stay," she tilted her head, "then you're working." An elevator hid in the wall like a secret. It opened onto a lobby that pretended to be a museum. Sculptures with price tags invisible to people like me floated under light that had learned restraint. A man in a headset briefed me on champagne pour angles and roots to the powder room. He handed me a tray that was heavier than my rent. "Smile without encouraging lawsuits," he said. "What does that look like?" "This," he said, and showed me his corporate smile. Humane, almost religious, non-binding. The main room was all velvet and intention. Music with too much bass to be background pretended not to bruise the air. Men wore suits like they owned the patent. Women wore gowns like they had invented gravity. Everyone wore a wristband that said, "Times my secrets belong to the house between 9 and midnight. Asterisk." I did laps with champagne and good posture. I learned the geography. The gold bar in the corner that performed decadence. The shadowed alcove where 2 people at a time remembered the shapes of each other's hands. The balcony where a string quartet tried to civilize the rich with minor keys. Twice I caught my reflection and didn't recognize the woman who looked like she had chosen to be here. At 9:27, the room changed. Not the music, something in the angle of attention. A pressure shift, the tide coming in. The door had opened, and a man the color of the house's money walked in. He didn't draw the eye by trying. He drew it by refusing to hurry. Tall, broad in a way suits like to advertise. Hair dark, combed back as if law and order were personal choices. His jaw carried the kind of stubble that looks deliberate when you can afford time. He didn't smile. His presence smiled for him. He accepted a glass from my tray without looking down. "Thank you," he said, and my name landed in my ear like a secret I hadn't offered. "Miss Tran." I didn't startle. That was something I learned when debt collectors called my mother by her first name as if they were family. "Sir," I said, not deferent, not stupid. "You're new," he said. "Tonight," I said. He nodded as if I had passed a test with an answer he'd written. "Walk with me." "While I'm working?" I asked. "You are," he said, and stepped toward the balcony. Cash was gravity. I followed. From above, the room looked choreographed. Money has a way of making coincidence pose in flattering light. He stood with his back to the rail, indifferent to the city framed beyond the glass. Up close, the tailored details advertised menace more quietly. The hand-stitched seam, the watch that cost the down payment on a conscience, the way his body relaxed by choice alone. "My name is Adrian Knight," he said. I knew it. Everyone who pretends not to read gossip online knows that name. The articles used words like times restructuring, times and times acquisition, times and times disruption times, to describe things that ruined hundreds of people's afternoons. "I don't give autographs," I said. He laughed once. It wasn't fake. "Good. I don't sign napkins." "What do you sign?" "Contracts," he said. "And checks. Must be nice." "It is not a feeling," he said. "It's a lever. Do you pull it often?" "Often enough," he said. His eyes did something that made me feel like the city had lost its volume. Gray. Not cold. Measuring. Not cruel. "You didn't come for the tray." "No," I said. I came for what comes after the tray. And what is that? He asked, as if my answer would help him price the night. A job, I said. A better one. Define better. Less pretending for fewer tips. Honesty, he said, amused. That will need to be managed. He watched me like a teacher waits, to see if a student will keep talking after the answer. I refused to audition. He seemed to like that even more. He set his glass down. I have an offer, he said, as if offers are weather, and he controls the forecast. It's not in the parlance of your headset friend hospitality. I'm listening. You are, he said, and seemed pleased with himself for a moment, before returning to the tone he uses for business. I require a companion under contract. 30 days. Renewable at my discretion. You will accompany me to events that need your face more than mine. I don't need a wife. I need an arrangement. I laughed because it was either that or let my mouth drop open like a cartoon burglar. A girlfriend for rent? A lover, he corrected. He didn't relish the word. He set it on the table between us, like a loaded object, and studied my reaction. What makes you think I'm available by the month? I asked. My heart had gone quiet to better hear itself. 30 days sounded like electricity and a cliff. You came here, he said. That means my rent is due. It doesn't mean I'm for sale. Everyone is for sale, he said without irony. Price is the only question. Terms are the advantage of the literate. You're charming, I said. Truly. You are angry, he said. Truly. He reached into his jacket and took out a card. Not a business card, thicker. Weighted. Obscene. He wrote a number on it and slid it to me with 2 fingers. I didn't pick it up. The number looked like a mistake bankers get fired for 30 days. I said, because curiosity is a character flaw I nurture, despite experience, for 30 nights. He corrected mildly. The days are yours. Unless an event requires daylight, in which case you will be compensated for the insult. What's the job description? You will be seen with me. You will be believed with me. You will wear what my house puts on your bed and tell me when it's wrong. You will not sign anything you do not read. And you will tell me the truth fast. And the bedroom? I asked, because I wasn't going to perform coy for a man who looked like he'd litigate it. His eyes did not flick. At your consent, he said. At my convenience. If either fails, the contract ends. You don't sound romantic, I said. I'm not, he said. I'm efficient. I looked at the number again. It tried to reorganize my morals. Rent. Bills. The MRI in 3 weeks I couldn't pay for. The nurse who said, "Times will work with you, Times," and then moved my mother's case to pending because the insurer had decided death might be cheaper. Why me? I asked. He considered, and the consideration was the strangest sign of respect I'd been given all week. You don't flinch at the wrong things, he said, and you laugh at the right ones. You watched me for 20 minutes. I said. I watched you think, he said. Most people hire faces. I prefer an edit. You want me to fix your sentences, I said. I want you to make my lies less expensive, he said. I picked up the card because pretending not to would be theater, and I've always been terrible at that. The number burned. The word times renewable times did too. I can't leave my mother, I said, because if he wanted to buy me, he needed to understand he was purchasing conditions as much as time. I'm not trying to move your ghosts, he said. I'm offering to pay their rent. You don't know her rent. I don't need to, he said. I know mine. "Who are you really?" I asked, which is a ridiculous question for men said to own islands. "I told you," he said. "Adrian Knight." "That's a name," I said. "Names are disguises." He blinked at the rain beyond the balcony. "I build things that keep other things from collapsing," he said, without showing me any of the pride such a sentence ought to soften. "Companies. People. Sometimes bridges between places that no longer believe in each other. I'm useful until I'm not. Then I leave." "Do you want me to be a thing you keep from collapsing?" I asked. "No," he said. "I want you to be the reason I don't have to pretend I'm collapsing." A waiter drifted by like a yacht. Adrian plucked another glass without breaking the line of his attention. He didn't offer me one. I preferred that. Men who pour for you before you agree to terms are men who think all consent is retroactive. "What if I say no?" I asked. He considered a second time. "Then you return the dress, keep the umbrella, and go home. And I send a donation to a hospital in your mother's name, out of respect for a person who refused an efficient indecency." "Is it indecent?" I asked. "Everything is," he said. "That's why rules matter." "What are yours?" I asked. "I've told you some," he said. "Here are more. Appear where I ask you to appear. Leave when I tell you to leave. Do not lie to me about small things. Do not lie to yourself about large ones." "And yours for me?" I asked, because if he wanted to own my months, I wouldn't let him do it with a one-way door. He exhaled in a way that made me think he didn't often get asked for reciprocal conditions. "I don't hit," he said. "I don't threaten. I don't remove choices without offering an equivalent. And I don't drink enough to forget who you are." "You're very sure of yourself," I said. "I'm very practiced," he said. He glanced down at my tray. "Your supervisor is wondering whether you've drowned," he said. He was right. The headset man was peeking around a pillar, pretending to adjust a fern with the desperation of someone who had been told to leave the important guest alone. "Return the tray. Go home. Read the paper I'll send you. If you can look at yourself in the mirror tomorrow morning, text times yes, asterisk. If not, text times no, asterisk. Either way, my respect remains the same. And if I don't text at all, I'll assume you have better offers," he said. "I won't believe it." He turned to go. I surprised myself by catching his sleeve. The fabric said a word my hands don't usually touch. He looked down at my fingers on his arm, then back at my face. He waited. "Why 30 days?" I asked. "Because a month is long enough to teach two people how not to lie," he said, "and short enough to avoid theology." I let him go. He did. The space he left behind smelled like cedar, and the kind of money that pays for a pianist no one hears. I returned to work. I smiled politely without renting any part of myself out to it. When midnight rolled the room up like a rug, I peeled off the name tag no one had asked me to wear, and returned the tray and the dress, and the idea that nights don't offer prices. Outside, the rain had stopped auditioning for tragedy and decided to settle for damp. The card in my hand felt like a window I didn't know if I wanted to open. I walked past a florist unloading peonies at 2 a.m, because weddings are hungry even in bad weather. I walked past a couple arguing softly about whether their fights counted as passion. My building was a 4-story lesson in resignation. The mailboxes gaped like mouths that had forgotten the taste of checks. I climbed the stairs to the 2nd floor, where the hallway's lemon bleach had given up. Apartment 2B had learned to apologize for itself. I unlocked the door quietly because dignity prefers not to be woken. My mother slept with her hand over her chest, as if checking it was still there. The chemo scarf had shifted. I fixed it, lightly, the way you lift a sentence out of a paragraph, and ask it to behave. Her breath was steady. The oxygen machine hummed like the city taken down to one apartment. On the table, the portal glowed. Asterisk. Payment overdue. Asterisk. I opened a new tab and typed Times Adrian Knight. Asterisk. The search results used adjectives that feel like a dare. Asterisk. Ruthless. Visionary. Cold. Philanthropic. Dangerous. Asterisk. Photos of him shaking hands with people who buy buildings for sport, frowning at a site visit in a hard hat, standing beside a mayor whose mouth believed itself. I should have felt small next to that kind of gravity. Instead, I felt like a person standing on a bridge, deciding whether to drive across it even though nobody has published the load-bearing numbers. The email arrived at 1:11 a.m. Subject: Draft agreement term, 30 days. The body was impersonal, like milk. Attached. Asterisk agreement. PDF. Asterisk. My mouse hovered, sanctimonious, then clicked, because I'm not fool enough to pretend curiosity isn't a muscle that needs exercise. It wasn't sleazy. That was worse. It was clinical, precise. Someone had hired a lawyer who knows that the way to buy a person is to make them feel like a professional, not a purchase. Term. 30 days. Commencing upon signature and first transfer. Compensation: $10,000. $10,000 per week. Transferred each Friday by 18 to the bank of record. Performance bonuses at discretion of Knight Holding Co. Deliverables. Presence at scheduled events. Confidentiality. Non-disparagement. Limited to active term. Personal appearance. Per wardrobe editorial. Boundaries. Intimacy by explicit verbal consent each occurrence. No intoxication beyond 2. Drinks at public events. Sleep minimum 6 hours per 24-hour period. Weekly day without public obligations. Exit. Either party may terminate for cause or convenience with 48 hours notice. Compensation prorated. Confidentiality survives term. Clause 17. Truth fast. Parties will disclose relevant personal or professional conflicts within 24 hours of discovery. Clause 18. No, stupid. Parties will endeavor to avoid public spectacle contrary to dignity. I laughed out loud in the dark. Asterisk no stupid. Asterisk. Someone named a clause like a person. Someone had thought about me reading this and imagined the parts where I'd roll my eyes. The money was impossible. The boundaries were strangely gentle. No drunk rich men pawing at my elbows because the contract would reverse their hands. A day off. 6 hours of sleep like a commandment. It was either a fairy tale written by a corporate priest or a trap so elegant it looked like a gift. Lynn? My mother called, voice smaller than the room. I went to her. I'm here. You smell like rain, she said. I walked home. Did you eat? She asked. Yes. I lied out of habit, then corrected because I had promised myself I would try to stop lying about small things. I'll eat now. How's your job? She asked. The question mothers ask when they know the answer already and want to be proven wrong. Complicated, I said. There's a opportunity. She opened her eyes enough to see me. Is it one of those things you can't tell me about until it's over? Maybe, I said. She reached for my hand. Her skin felt like paper that had survived a fire. Your father would say, do the math, she said. I say, do the mirror. I will, I said. Back in the kitchen, I ate the bun Mai had pressed on me like an amulet. It was sweet and humiliating and perfect. I added up numbers on the back of an envelope like we were still living in a decade where math solved problems. 10,000 a week. 4 weeks. Hospital. Rent. Medicine. Debt. That pretended to have a personality. I wrote times yes, times on the envelope. Then times no. Asterisk. I underlined both like a lunatic and laughed at myself. Because self-respect is free. And I'm rich in that, at least. I brushed my teeth. I set my phone on the nightstand face down like a sinner. The city turned over in its sleep. I did not. In my dream, I was standing in the club again, watching myself from above. He was there, unhurried, hands in pockets, that impossible calm. He said nothing. He didn't need to. The rain did the talking for him, tattering the city down to 2 people, and a number you could rescue a life with if you didn't care how yours looked after. I woke at dawn to the tinny warble of a bird that had never given up on this block despite the humans. The portal still glowed. The contract waited. My mother slept. The mirror in the bathroom did its job with humility. I looked at the woman in it. She looked back like someone who had learned fast math and slower hope. If we do this, I told her, we are not allowed to make a religion of suffering. She didn't disagree. I made tea badly because I was thinking about money, not water temperature. I opened my phone and scrolled past nothing to something that wanted to be an answer. The message field looked like a cliff. I typed times yes times and deleted it. I typed times no times and deleted it. I typed asterisk. I'll need an amendment to clause 18. No stupid includes family. They are not spectacle. If this is acceptable, I'll sign. Asterisk. I stared at it long enough to learn the shape of the sentence from memory. I sent it. His reply arrived before the kettle finished lying to the water. Asterisk. Add. Family is exempt from spectacle. Any press contact requires prior written consent. Draft en route in 10 minutes. Asterisk. I didn't expect validation. He gave me a clause and a clock I could live by. 10 minutes later, an updated PDF pinged the inbox. The new line glowed like a truce offered on purpose. Not as charity. I signed. The transfer hit like a small earthquake my bank app, which had been used to numbers that apologized for themselves, now looked like it had discovered a personality. I paid rent. I paid 2 hospital invoices. I scheduled the MRI for Friday and wrote times, paid times on the calendar in a handwriting I hadn't recognized as mine in years. A car arrived at 11. Not a limousine, something quieter. The driver wore a suit that didn't try to impress anyone. He knew my name and my mother's, and said them like he was returning something he found in a pocket. I left a note on the table for my mother, explaining I'd be working late, and kissed her on the forehead as if kisses could draft legal documents. The penthouse occupied the top of a building that had decided to be tasteful. The elevator opened directly into a foyer that was a thesis on what air wants to be when it grows up. Glass, steel, concrete softened with wood. The city fell away on 3 sides like a curtain drawn to watch a performance. A woman waited by a curved staircase. She wore navy and practicality. "Miss Tran," she said. "I'm Celine, house manager. Welcome." "Thank you. You'll be measured for alterations," she said, smiling not just with her mouth. "But first, you meet him." She led me through a living space that refused to call itself a living room, because living is free. Books that had been read on purpose. A piano that had been played by hands that didn't break things. Plants that were either real or criminals. He stood by the window with the city stuck to his reflection. He had taken off his jacket. The dress shirt said his shoulders knew their job. He turned when Celine cleared her throat. "Miss Tran," he said. "Welcome, Mr. Knight," I said, because I wasn't ready to call him Adrian with my mouth. "We begin tomorrow," he said. "Tonight you eat, you sleep, you tell me what you need." "Immediate needs?" I asked. "Immediate lies," he corrected gently. "What will you need to tell yourself to tolerate this arrangement until it becomes a choice you don't regret?" I looked at the city. It looked back. That I'm renting 30 days, not selling anything. "Good," he said. "And me? You'll need to tell yourself I'm not a problem to be solved," I said. "I'm a person who will make your math expensive." He smiled then, like he hadn't in the club. It was brief and real, and a little terrible. "I look forward to losing money," he said. Celine cleared her throat again with the authority of a benevolent dictator. "Shall I show Miss Tran her room?" "Please," he said. To me, "Dinner is at 7. If you don't eat." Clause 18 expands to include my lecture voice. "I'll eat," I said, because hunger is honest. My room had a view of the river practicing philosophy. A bed like an argument I'd lose. A closet already containing a dress that looked like it had been poured into the shape of a woman who makes donors write zeros. On the bed, a folded piece of paper in his handwriting. "Not perfect. Edit anything. Nothing here is a command." I sat on the edge of the bed and put my head in my hands the way you do when a life threatens to change without asking if you're decent. I didn't cry. It wasn't one of those moments. It was a moment where your bones rearrange themselves around a decision you've made and will have to live inside. At 7, I went downstairs and ate a meal that would have insulted me a year ago by being so good. He didn't watch me eat. He asked about my mother actual questions, not the performative kind, and listened like answers might change how he spent his time. After, he walked me to the library because of course there was a library. He didn't touch me. He stood at the threshold, like a man who knows doorways are spells. "Tomorrow," he said. "Tomorrow." Yahuet. At the base of the stairs, I turned. "Why no stupid?" I asked. He looked honestly confused for a heartbeat. "Because I run on boredom," he said. "People who perform their recklessness in public cost me too much. I prefer quiet mistakes." "I'll try to make elegant ones," I said. "You'll make honest ones," he said. "We'll do the elegance together." Upstairs, alone with my new bed, and the terror of sleeping in a place that doesn't smell like poverty and bleach, I let the fear chair sit by the window. I put the phone on the nightstand. I set 2 alarms. I didn't pray. I thanked the version of me who had asked for the clause about family because she is the kind of woman who gets old. Somewhere below, a piano note sounded one, then 2 hesitant, then not. The rain stopped lying. The city put away its knives for an hour. I lay down on the bed I had not earned and chose, very deliberately, to sleep. In the morning, we would start counting. Number Rented Lover by the Month. Chapter 2. Rules of Desire. To 3,000 words. The penthouse woke like a machine. Silent. Efficient. Already ahead of me. I had spent my first night inside its glass walls, staring at a skyline that didn't care whether I was alive or not. Sleep had been thin. A blanket stretched over anxiety. Morning came regardless. Celine, the house manager, appeared with a tablet and a polite smile that made me want to behave. "Breakfast is at the table," she said. "Mr. Knight prefers routine." I almost laughed. Men like him didn't prefer, they imposed. The dining table stretched like a runway, silverware arranged with military precision. A plate waited for me, eggs so perfect they looked like they'd been drawn. Adrian sat at the far end, suit immaculate, even at 8 in the morning, reading the Times Financial Times. Times, as though it were scripture. "You're late," he said, not looking up. "I didn't know there was a schedule." "There is now." He folded the paper. "Sit." I sat, feeling like I'd been enrolled in a school without orientation. The food smelled better than anything I'd eaten in months. I picked at it cautiously, waiting for him to start the lesson. "You've read the contract." "Yes." "Do you understand it?" "Enough to know I signed away 30 days of my life." His eyes lifted then, sharp as cut steel. "Not your life. Your time." "Language matters." I swallowed. "And if I decide it's too much, you walk away." His fork clinked against the plate. "But if you stay, you follow the rules." There it was. The word that made my skin itch. Rules. "What rules?" I asked. "Public appearances. Confidentiality. Clothing chosen by the house stylist. You accompany me where required. You do not question my business. You do not create scandals." His voice was calm, but underneath it was iron. "And privately, you speak the truth. No games. No pretending to want me when you don't. I don't buy lies, Lynn." The way he said my name was both a test and a claim. I forced myself to hold his gaze. "And intimacy?" "At your consent," he said evenly. "Always. But understand, this arrangement is not platonic theater. If I want you, I'll say it. If you want me, you'll say it. No hesitation. No coyness." Heat climbed my throat. "That sounds efficient." "It is." A faint smirk touched his mouth. "Do you have objections?" I wanted to. I wanted to tell him that selling 30 days didn't mean he could dictate how I breathed. But the memory of my mother's sleeping face pressed down like a weight. "No," I said. He leaned back, studying me as though he could measure my surrender in millimeters. "Good. Tonight, you'll come with me to a dinner. Dress will be delivered by 6. Celine will prepare you. Don't be late." The rest of the day blurred into silences too heavy to ignore. The penthouse was opulent but lonely, the kind of place that could smother you with its beauty. I walked its halls like a visitor in a museum, careful not to touch anything that might break. By evening, the dress had arrived. Deep emerald silk. Scandalously cut. The kind of fabric that whispered against skin. I stared at it too long before forcing myself into it. The mirror returned a stranger, a woman who looked expensive, dangerous, and entirely not me. Celine fastened a necklace at my throat, her hands steady. "He doesn't choose clothes to flatter," she said. "He chooses them to send messages." "What's tonight's message?" "That you're not disposable." The car slid through the city like a black blade. Adrian sat beside me, his cologne clean and understated, his presence overwhelming. He didn't speak for most of the ride. Finally, he turned, his voice low. "You're nervous. I'd be insane not to be." "Good," he said. "Fear keeps people sharp. But remember tonight you belong to me. No one touches you. No one insults you. If they do, I end it." The possessiveness should have angered me. Instead, it left a flicker of heat low in my stomach. The dinner was held in a private hall, chandeliers blazing, waiters gliding like trained ghosts, men in tuxedos, women dripping in diamonds. Every glance slid toward Adrian as we entered, curiosity sharpening to envy when their eyes shifted to me. He placed a hand at the small of my back, guiding me forward. The touch was light, but my body betrayed me. Skin humming, heart racing, introductions blurred. Politicians, CEOs, people whose names bought silence. Adrian spoke little, his presence enough. I played the role he required, polite, poised, untouchable. But every time his fingers brushed my arm, every time his voice dipped near my ear, I felt the rules twisting into something else. At one point, a rival leaned in too close, smirking. "Knight, you've upgraded." Adrian's smile was razor thin. "Careful," he said softly. "She's not for your eyes." The man laughed nervously and retreated. My pulse thundered. Later, when we slipped away to the balcony, the city sprawling beneath us, I finally exhaled. "You threatened him," I said. "I warned him." Adrian lit a cigarette, the flame briefly illuminating his jaw. "There's a difference. You make it sound like I'm property." His gaze cut to mine, smoke curling between us. "You're not property. You're mine by choice. Remember that." The word times mine times shouldn't have thrilled me. It did. Back at the penthouse, the silence stretched, electric. I set my clutch down, turned to face him. "You kept your word," I said. "Of course." He stepped closer, his presence filling the space. "But I never said I didn't want you." My breath caught. "Say no." He murmured, voice velvet over steel. "And I stop." I didn't. His hand rose, cupping my jaw, thumb grazing my lower lip. The kiss, when it came, was unhurried, deliberate an act of possession and restraint. My body leaned into his before I could think better of it. His mouth was warm, insistent, coaxing a response I had sworn I wouldn't give. When he pulled back, his eyes were storm dark. "Consent," he said, the word raw. "Yes," I whispered. Clothes fell away, not like surrender, but like discovery. His touch was firm, controlled, but never cruel. He learned my body with the same precision he used for business, decisive, exacting, relentless. I gave what I shouldn't have, took what I shouldn't want, and for a moment, forgot this was a contract. After, as I lay against his chest, his heart beat steady under my ear. Reality pressed in again. "You're breaking your own rule," I murmured. "Which one?" "No pretending." He kissed my hair, a gesture so unexpectedly gentle it unraveled me. "I'm not pretending," he said, and that was the most dangerous part. Rented lover by the month. Chapter 3. Cracks in the contract. Morning arrived, like a verdict written on clean paper. The penthouse kept its hush. The city outside did not. I woke in a bed that remembered me too quickly, in sheets that smelled faintly of cedar and whatever restraint costs when it's bought in bulk. The other side of the mattress was warm, then not. I reached, found absence, and told my hand to behave. Clause 17. Truth fast. Clause 18. No stupid. I said both out loud, because sometimes rules sound kinder when you pronounce them like prayers. There was coffee in the kitchen, and a note in Celine's precise handwriting. *MRI Friday confirmed. Transport arranged. Household account has your preferred grocery list. Add anything. *. A second line. Unexpectedly human. *. The river is best at 7 a.m. from the east windows. *. I tried it. The river at 7 looked like a bruise deciding to heal. Barges moved like patients. The light chose silver today. I stood there and bargained with time. Give me 1 month of breathing. I'll pay interest in the years after. Adrian appeared without fanfare, the way weather does. Suit jacket off, sleeves rolled, tie on the counter like a concession to gravity. He poured coffee, handed me a cup, watched me take the first sip with an attention that should have singed. Sleep? He asked. Enough, I said. You? Not a superstition I practice, and yet you're coherent? My default setting, he said, mouth threatening a smile he didn't pay for. We stood in the newness like two people in a museum deciding whether to touch the glass. I could still feel his mouth in my mouth, his hand a question and its answer. The memory tried to set up camp in the room. I let it for 1 minute, then folded it and put it in a drawer. Today, he said, you are yours until 6. At 6 we test wardrobe for Thursday's charitable extortion. Gala? I asked. Fundraiser, he corrected. For a clinic, the city will underfund regardless of who stands at the podium. We'll pry larger checks from men who like to be photographed, as if generosity is hereditary. What do you need me to be? Believable, he said. Also incapable of being misquoted. That one I can do. He finished his coffee and rinsed the cup like a man who has learned leaving messes makes you less persuasive. On the way out, he paused in the kitchen doorway. Last night, he said. Neutral. Yes, I said, waiting. Consent remains a question, he said. Not a conclusion. We will both remember that. My throat did a small, disloyal thing. Okay. His eyes flicked to my mouth and away. Eat, he said. Celine turns into a benevolent tyrant if her guests don't. After he left, the penthouse exhaled. I ate a bowl of something expensive that pretended to be humble. I forwarded the MRI confirmation to my mother's oncologist with a note that played polite because medical offices understand that dialect best. I texted Mai a photo of the view, and she responded with 12 heart-eye emojis and times bring home a rich husband or a plant. Asterisk. Celine appeared with 2 garment bags and a binder. Thursday's silhouettes, she said, setting the binder on the island like a manifesto. You'll edit with me at 6. He wants to pretend he has taste. We will actually have taste. Right now you have a visitor. Who? The word came out more like a flinch than a question. Your mother's nurse, she said. On video. We set up the family room with the good light. I almost thanked her with tears. I didn't. I said times thank you times like a person who doesn't cry in people's impressive kitchens. The nurse and I talked about numbers and nausea, and a small victory that tasted better than any breakfast. When the call ended, I stayed in the family room a minute longer than necessary, letting gratitude sit beside me without making it host. By noon, I couldn't stand the penthouse's quiet. I put on sneakers with my loose sweater and went down to the street with a baseball cap, a mask, and the stubborn belief that anonymity still works on a Tuesday. The driver raised an eyebrow when I told him where. "Your building," he repeated, as if confirming the coordinates of an operation. "Yes, I promised I'd bring broth and cookies." We parked a block away. I bought soup from a place that remembers patients with names and not numbers. I took the stairs 2 at a time the way you do when you're late, and also avoiding a conversation with your own conscience. My mother was better than last week, worse than 10 years ago, alive today. She pretended to scold me for my sweater, and then asked about my sleep, and then leaned on my arm when she walked to the chair by the window. I made tea. She watched me like a person who has chosen to believe the task will be accomplished, and is allowing herself the luxury of watching instead of micromanaging. "How is the job?" she asked. "Routine," I said. Honesty slid a fraction. "Complicated." "By him?" she asked. "By me," I said. "He's precise." "And you don't like precise," she said. "I like precise," I said. "I don't like being understood without prior notice." She smiled into her cup. "It's hard," she said softly, "to let someone speak to you in a grammar you haven't learned yet." I kissed her hair and cleaned the kitchen and fixed the window that never decided if it prefers open or closed. I changed her sheets with the efficient tenderness of a daughter who has done this often enough to know which corners complain. When I left, a woman in the hallway was filming the stained carpet and narrating like a journalist. Asterisk, the city has forgotten this floor. Asterisk. She swung her phone toward me and smiled, as if kindness was a camera angle. "Excuse me," she said. "Are you Lynn Tran?" Clause 18 rang its bell. "Why?" I asked. She beamed. "We're doing a feature on local girls who—" The driver appeared from nowhere and touched the woman's elbow with the politest possible version of Times No. Asterisk I slid past. On the sidewalk, a man leaned against a mailbox pretending to read a paper that had stopped printing 2 years ago. The driver positioned himself between me and the street like a chess piece that knows more openings than I do. In the car, he handed me a different cap, unbranded, and a pair of sunglasses that made me look like I shouldn't be trusted. "Thank you," I said. He nodded like I'd paid him with a currency he accepts. "Press has been sniffing since midnight," he said. "Someone saw you at dinner." "How?" I asked, stunned by my own naivety. "Phones," he said simply. "Everyone is an unpaid paparazzo now." Back at the penthouse, the panel by the door pulsed a patient green. Celine met me with a towel, which is how some people say "times I'm on your side." Asterisk. "Shower," she said. "Then we work." We worked. The binder was a battlefield, and Celine was the general I didn't know I needed. We negotiated necklines, vetoed a dress that belonged to a woman who wanted to tell the room she couldn't breathe, chose an emerald that could intimidate a senator. We ordered shoes that didn't punish. We scheduled hair that would move like a sentence that knows its subject. Celine approved my edits with nods that counted as promotions. At 6:40, Adrian came home with weather in his face, a gray that suggested a storm in a suit. He didn't speak until after he removed his tie in a single efficient display of negative theater. He sat on the arm of a chair, eyes on Celine. "Not me." "What did we choose?" Celine briefed him like a culture attaché whose country has allied itself with reality. He didn't argue. He asked one question about the weight of the fabric. He looked at me then. "Not my body. Are you comfortable?" "I will be," I said. "It fits." "Good." He glanced at the window. The city had chosen a deeper blue. He turned back to me. Walk. We walked the perimeter of the glass until the river gave up, pretending to know where it was going. He put his hands in his pockets, which is his version of being gentle. Your building was photographed today, he said. I know, I said. Your driver prevented a small documentary. We'll move your mother in 2 weeks, he said, as if discussing weather. Quietly, we'll lease another unit in a building that isn't performing bankruptcy on the front steps. She'll have a nurse who doesn't lose her notes to a bad network. If you hate it, you can move her back the next day. Air left my lungs in a slow, wary exit. That's not in the contract. No, he said. It's in mine. Your what? The one I have with boredom, he said. The more comfortable your mother is, the fewer stupid things I do to distract myself from not fixing things. I couldn't decide if the honesty was a kindness or an injury. She'll think you're buying her. I am, he said. Time. If the word offends either of you, use times renting. Asterisk. I don't want to owe you more than 30 days. You don't, he said. You owe me good faith. That's all. We stopped at the eastern window. The sky leaked a smear of copper from somewhere that had nothing to do with us. I looked down and saw the whole city pretending to be small because we were high enough to get away with it. Truth fast? I asked. Because Clause 17 isn't a suggestion. Yes, he said. Last night wasn't efficiency, I said, testing the ice. No, he said, not flinching. Does that scare you? Fear, he said, is a habit I prefer in other people. Try it, I said. It's educational. He turned his head slightly. Are you afraid? 60%, I said. 40% hungry. His mouth did its almost smile. And then didn't. For what? For the month where I don't have to apologize to my bank app, I said. And for the version of me who remembers how to want without needing a spreadsheet. Keep both, he said, which is the nicest thing anyone has ever told me at a window. Dinner behaved. We behaved. Celine introduced us to a chicken that had gone to finishing school. Adrian introduced me to an algae green sauce with a name longer than the month. He didn't ask me about last night the way men do when they want to extract compliments without paying for them. He asked how my mother slept. He asked if the elevator in her building still stuck on the 3rd floor. He asked if the nurse used humor well or badly. Badly is worse. It injures the room. After, we went to the library not to sin, but to sit. The leather chairs looked like they had survived men who make speeches and prefer to read their own. He went to the piano and touched one key like a child introducing himself to a very old dog. You play? I asked. Badly, he said. Quietly. He didn't. He played 3 notes and made them sound like a map to somewhere I could get lost on purpose. My phone buzzed. I made the face people make when the world tries to intrude with a new debt. A text from a number I didn't recognize, but recognized. Asterisk. Nice dress last night. Tell Knight thanks for keeping my seat warm. Asterisk. A photo followed. Me on the balcony from an angle impossibly close. My shoulder, the curve of my jaw. A slice of him. Clause 18 through a chair. Who? Adrian asked, reading the weather in my face. I showed him. He didn't cuss. He didn't break anything. He handed me the phone back like an object that belongs to me and walked to the bar as if he were going to pour himself 1 inch of self-control. He didn't. He picked up the decanter and set it down again. Gabriel Pierce, he said. Voice flat with recognition. Board member I inherited with an acquisition. He believes women are instruments that play themselves if you press hard enough. Block the number, and if he buys a new one, he will, Adrian said. We'll mute him there too. Why is he texting me? I asked. Why does he know my number? Because curiosity breeds theft, he said. Because he believes the only way to own a room is to make it flinch. Because he wants to make me spend my patience on the wrong things. You have patience? Enough to weaponize it, he said. Pierce wants me to swing. I prefer to starve him. The photo pulsed in my palm like a living insult. How close was he? I asked. This angle, close enough to make Celine angry, he said, which in this building is closer than death. Something hot and ugly rattled in my chest. It surprised me by not being fear. He touches me. I break his hand. I said, You won't have to, Adrian said. That is my hobby. A line lit up on the panel by the door. Celine's voice emerged, crisp. Apologies. Media requests have quadrupled. Asterisk Society Now Times is using arrangement. Cite Clause 18, Adrian said. And send Pierce flowers made of subpoenas. Immediately, she said, which is her dialect for times I'm already done. Asterisk. Adrian looked back at me in a way. Something in his face softened and then put itself back together. I can shift this, he said quietly. We can end the month now. I can buy you out with dignity. Relocate your mother. Sever the thread. You can keep what I've paid, and the part of yourself you don't want in pictures. You're offering mercy, I said. I'm offering symmetry, he said. What do you want? The month, he said. And you, in it. But not at the price of the nouns you need to live with yourself. He took a step toward me and did not touch me. My body did the math. Last night, the text, the 30 days, my mother's scarf, the clause about family, the river at 7. We continue, I said, on my terms. Name them. Truth fast, I said. No stupid. And I took a breath because this one cost more. No pretending, we're not already past efficient. He closed his eyes for a second, like a man who has decided to respect a wound instead of cauterizing it. Agreed. He opened them again, and the quiet between us changed shape. Tomorrow, he said, we see my mother. I blinked. This was not in any binder. You're what? She insists, he said, which is how someone like Adrian confesses love. She wants to meet the woman demolishing my calendar. None of my usual evasions have worked. You told your mother about me? I asked, ridiculous in some universal way I didn't want to examine yet. I told her a version she would accept, he said, only slightly ashamed. She has perfected the art of making my refusal expensive. You will like her. She collects difficult people. I am auditioning, I said. You are hired, he said. And the flicker of smile was there and gone, a match in sea wind. He walked me to the hall. We kept our rule. We behaved. But a kiss is not the only way to break and honor a promise simultaneously. He lifted my hand and put his mouth to the place between bone and vein. A small, precise pressure. A vow, not a theft. Heat arrowed up my arm with an efficiency that could bankrupt a nation. Good night, Lynn, he said. Good night, I said, and my voice did the kind of thing that makes mirrors fog. The internet did not sleep. It performed. Morning headlines used words like Times Mystery Woman Times and Times Arranged Times and Times Monthly Asterisk, which made me laugh and then not. Mara, no. Wrong universe. Celine sent a one-line response to all inquiries. Asterisk. No comment. Miss Tran is not a public figure. Asterisk. The comment sections did not care. I restrained myself from reading them by reminding myself of a clause that does not exist but should. No drinking from sewers. At 10, the car slid us through Uptown to a brownstone with a plaque that looked like it had been polished by admiration. Inside, books that had given and received opinions, a small dog that looked like it wouldn't tolerate cowards, and a woman who could ruin you with a sentence and make you thank her for the lesson. Mother, Adrian said, and his voice rearranged itself around the word like a childhood he hadn't outgrown. She stood, all pearls and posture, not brittle, flexible, like a well-made bow. Her eyes cut to me, and softened without melting. So, she said, taking me in with the speed of someone trained to triage social disasters. You're the reason my son has been on time all week. I swallowed a smile. I'm the reason he has to sit through fittings, I said. Then I owe you, she said. Tea? We drank it in cups that used to be whispered about. She asked me how my mother was. And when I answered, she asked a better question. She did not ask me about the arrangement. She did not use the word times girlfriend times like a dagger. She told me a story about a gala in 1998 where she stopped a senator from saying something inconvenient by stepping on his foot with a very sharp heel. Adrian watched us, amused, wary, human. The dog adopted me. The house approved. It was a small miracle. On the way out, she touched my arm. My son, she said, voice calibrating itself to lower register, has never been good at wanting things. He confuses deserving with math. If he behaves, stay. If he doesn't, leave. And take my dog. Mother, Adrian said, exasperated and affectionate at once. She ignored him with the efficiency of long practice. He's better when he's bored, she said to me. But he's best when he's forced to admit he has a heart. I'll keep a ledger, I said. Don't, she replied, eyes twinkling. Burn it. In the car, he didn't speak for 2 blocks. Then, she likes you. Because I laughed at the senator story? Because you listened, he said. Not a rare skill. It is for the people who want things from her, he said. Which is almost everyone. We took the long way back. He let the driver pretend we were lost. He told me a story about his father that had no adjectives and needed none. A teacher who made love conditional on outcomes and left early when faced with a problem he could not solve. He did not ask for sympathy. He asked for the dignity of being heard. You don't have to fix every building you enter, I said. I know, he said. I just don't like watching them fall. Back at the penthouse, Celine handed me a garment bag as if delivering an amulet. Final fitting, she said. You will murder men with it and sleep like a creature who deserved it. At 6, the world knocked with a velvet fist. Asterisk Society Now Times had posted a piece about rented romance. It used a photo of my shoulder, a line from an unnamed insider, and a headline that made my bones itch, 30 days to own a heart. The comments argued about whether I had one. I put the phone down on the counter and stared at the backsplash until it remembered how to be tile. Adrian came in as the sky turned the color of an expensive lie. Do you want to leave? He asked. No, I said. I want to outlive this. We will, he said simply. You sound sure. I am, he said. The internet is a storm. It loves to move on. To who? To the next woman, he said softly. I hate that. Me too, I said. He set his hands on the counter and looked at me, not distressing the air with a performance. Tonight we keep the lights inside low, he said. We go to bed like monks, I laughed. You're terrible at monk. I'm improving, he said. Slowly. We ate late. We behaved. In the hall, he kissed me once with the sort of restraint that can set cities on fire because it refuses to. His mouth lingered by my ear. No, stupid, he said. No, stupid, I said back. I tried to sleep. The chair where fear sits moved closer to the bed. I let it, and I let it fall asleep on duty. At 1:03 a.m., my phone vibrated with a text I felt in my ribs before I read it. A blurry photo of my mother's window, taken from the street. The caption, nice view. No number, no name. Just the small, efficient cruelty of men who enjoy inventing panic. I was in the hall in 5 seconds. Adrian was already there, barefoot, awake, composing himself like a weapon that prefers to be legal. He didn't ask. I showed him. He didn't swear. He took the phone and sent a message to a number that clearly owed him fear. Asterisk. Move the car. 2 guards on the door. Replace the glass tomorrow at noon. New lock. Asterisk. He handed my phone back, and this time he did touch me. Both hands, steady, on my shoulders. Breathe, he said. I am, I said. It was almost true. We'll move her tomorrow, he said. I'll make apologies to your mother in a language she approves of. You don't speak that language. I can learn, he said. I'm fluent in difficult. I nodded, because the alternative was breaking something soft. He kissed my temple like a man asking for permission to protect what he cannot own. I let him have it. In the morning, we would rewrite the map. Tonight, we stood in a hallway expensive enough to feel like a lie, and we made a promise that cost both of us more than the contract imagined. The month was still ours, but the cracks had appeared, hairline, luminous, honest. Through them, the light found ways in. Through them, danger took our names. We were not efficient anymore. We were something worse and better. We were real. Number. Rented lover by the month. Chapter 4. The choice. To 3,000 words. The day began with whispers that weren't mine. They belonged to the city, threading themselves into the penthouse like they owned the air. Phones hummed with curiosity. Screens lit up with my name paired with words that weren't kind. Asterisk contract, mistress, mystery woman, asterisk. Adrian's staff moved like soldiers on high alert, voices clipped, eyes sharp. Celine briefed me over coffee. The photos spread overnight. You are trending, trending. As if I were a stock to be bought or sold. Does he know? I asked. He knew before it happened, she said simply. And then he walked in, tie loosened, jaw tense. Every line of him coiled like a man deciding which empire to burn first. He didn't say Times Good Morning asterisk. He said, we fix this today. Number the storm breaks. We spent the morning fielding silence that felt louder than any storm. The internet had made me an exhibit. Women compared my dress. Men speculated what I cost. Some called me naive, others ambitious. None called me by my name. Adrian stood by the window with his phone, voice sharp as knives, orchestrating counters to narratives he despised. Pull every unauthorized shot. Issue cease and desist. And if Times Society Now Times doesn't retract, I'll buy their publisher and close the damn magazine. I watched him, torn between gratitude and anger. You can't erase all of it. He turned, eyes dark. I can starve it. And me? My voice cracked before I could stop it. Do you starve me too? Silence. The kind that cuts. He crossed the room, stopping too close. You're not disposable, Lynn. Not to me. It should have sounded like safety. Instead, it sounded like danger. Number. Dinner with shadows. That night, he insisted I attend the fundraiser gala. If you disappear now, they win. His hand brushed mine when he passed me the emerald dress. And I don't lose. The gala was a theater of chandeliers and champagne flutes. Every smile sharpened into something carnivorous. Whispers followed us like smoke. My hand on his arm trembled, but his grip steadied me. At our table, a senator's wife leaned close. She's very pretty, Adrian. But 30 days? You must be getting soft. He smiled without warmth. Softness isn't what I pay for. His thumb stroked my wrist beneath the linen, a silent apology no one else saw. I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled like marble. Number cracks widen. Back at the penthouse, the mask broke. I tore the necklace from my throat, the gems clattering against the counter. You made me a spectacle, I snapped. You knew the risk, he said evenly. I knew survival. I didn't know humiliation. He closed the distance, fury simmering under control. Do you think I wanted this? You're in my world now, Lynn. A world where men wait for me to falter, and they'll use you to do it. Tears burned my throat. So I'm a shield. A pawn. No. His voice cracked then, low, raw. You're the one thing they can't have. That makes you mine. The words should have chained me. Instead, it pulled me closer. Number. Between hunger and fear. The kiss came like a collision, hot, desperate. A war between fury and need. His hands pinned me to the counter, mouth claiming, demanding, say no. He rasped against my lips. I didn't. The world shrank to silk and skin, to the heat of his breath at my neck, to the bruising tenderness of a man who lived in control and was breaking it for me. Clothes scattered, restraint dissolved, and I gave in half in anger, half in hunger. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't cruel. It was the kind of intimacy that left us both shaking, clinging, afraid of what it meant. When it ended, silence filled the room, thick with sweat and truth. He pressed his forehead to mine. I warned you, he whispered. I don't do halfway. And I knew he wasn't talking about the contract anymore. Number. The ultimatum. The next morning, he handed me an envelope. Thick. Heavy. Final. You're out, he said. Enough to pay every debt, cover your mother's care, start fresh anywhere. Walk away, Lynn, before it destroys you. My hands shook. The paper smelled of ink and freedom. But then, I looked at him, the ruthless billionaire who had built walls out of iron, the man who had kissed me like prayer and punishment, the man who had shown me both cruelty and tenderness, and my chest ached. You want me to go? I whispered. His jaw tightened. I want you safe, even if it means I lose. And there it was. The crack in his armor. The truth I wasn't supposed to see. I set the envelope down, my choice trembling in my veins. Then you lose. His eyes flared, dark and wild, as if I had just rewritten the contract neither of us believed in anymore. The month wasn't over, but the rules were broken, and for the first time, neither of us wanted to fix them.